Hello and welcome to the Outcast. I'm your host, HC, and with me is.
Wolf.
And today we are finishing off our Avatar journey with what we were building up to Avatar The Last Airbender, the Netflix live action remake. Aren't you excited?
Woo! Yay! Woo!
Okay, so for the record, if you need our thoughts about about the original show and to some extent the movie, you can see our previous
Mhm.
the last three episodes we've done.
Yeah, we've been doing Avatar month essentially, leading up to the release of Avatar: The Last Airbender live action.
Y- Yep, but to summarize, we love the original show.
Yeah.
We love it. It's great. I am still standing by my words that the original is one of the most perfect shows ever made. And I still, something, I'll say this before we actually start talking about the remake. If you're new here, first of all, welcome. Great to have you here. But because
Hmm.
this show is relative, is new, it just came out 2 years ago, 2 years, 2 days ago at the time of this recording. um, Spoilers are gonna be abundant, so we're gonna talk non-spoilery first, and once we're about to delve into
Yeah.
spoilers, we will let you know.
Yeah. We'll give
With
you
that
our
being said,
general thoughts right
yeah,
here at the
but
beginning.
even before general thoughts, though, I have to say one thing because I want to preface this before going in. There was no way that this was gonna match to the original. Okay, and no matter what we
And we was
say,
definitely not gonna beat it, right? Like
yeah,
there's no way it's
there's
gonna beat it, and it was highly unlikely that it would be as good as, right? No way.
exactly, exactly, and I want to because I think both Wolf and I are coming from the point of view of there's no way this is gonna be better than the original. There's just if it were,
Well, I
something would
mean,
have been wrong.
let's
And
let's let's look at it like this, right? Did you what were your expectations or hopes walking into this, right? Into this show before you started watching it? Was there anything you were hoping for? Was there any expectations?
I will say that it kind of leads to something I was about to say. I
Perfect.
just thought it was pointless. I just thought that it had no point. Like even if it was done terribly, we have a live action remake of the show,
Y-
and
mm,
and we all know how well that turned out. So I wasn't really. But even so, I just kind of felt, why is this necessary? We know we can't do it better. So why do Ang again when you could have made a live action Avatar show, but do it about one of the other avatars? It's like a
Fair.
like the Avatar Kyoshi books or something. Not necessarily Kyoshi, but one of the other avatars. Why not do that? Why do Ang again?
I
So
I
I is
oh,
yeah.
go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Finish up.
So I guess the one thing I will say, I just felt it was pointless. I didn't see the point, and I was just and I knew that even if I were going to like this, it will still not be as good as the original because a show like the original is rare. And also, I kind of knew going in that I know we'll probably bring this up, guys. This is there's this thing that even if and I think even with One Piece doing a really good job, there is some sort of a line that there is a trapping to making an anime to turning animation into live action. And
Yeah.
I knew for a certain bit it wasn't going to match the original beat for beat, right?
Mm.
So I was just like, let's see what they do with this because I'm not that enthralled with the idea. But if they're gonna do this, right? They already threw the money out. They cast people. They filmed it. They released it. Might as well try and give it its fair shake. That's how I went into this.
No, that's fair. I mean, looking at One Piece, since you brought it up briefly, like it did really well, like extremely well for a live action, and some of that's I think is in part that One Piece just lends itself well to that style of show as well. But even the changes that they made for One Piece live action, right? I think most One Piece fans were like, no, this works for what they're doing. This is fine. It's different, but it still works. So we're happy with that. But my
And
thoughts coming into live action Avatar was I had zero expectations. Just to be clear, I had zero. I had one want, and I was like, you know what? If we're doing this, just get the CGI. Just give me the bending part and make it good this time. That's the one thing you need to do. That's if we're doing this again, just give me good bending this time. Even yeah, I understand there's going to be a lot of CGI. It may not be the best in the world CGI, but you can do better than one fucking pebble being moved by 10 fucking guys. Come on. You got to do better
Yeah.
than that. You got to do better than that. If you can do better than
Honestly,
that, honestly, I'll
honestly,
walk away happy.
not that high a bar to beat. It's like
If they failed to even that bar is buried deep, all right? If they
uh,
failed to even step over how deep that bar is buried, that would have been disappointing, as I said previously. And we need to just immediately
something.
give up on live action Avatar altogether.
Something. It's kind of like I guess to fill the Sonic references quota I have to fill. Whenever I say that I prefer Sonic 06 over Shadow the Hedgehog, people are like, "Are you insane?" It's like you realize that the bar is not high, right? Just because I prefer one piece of shit to the other doesn't mean that I don't think it's a piece of shit.
Mm.
So the bar wouldn't be high if they just beat that bar. You get me?
No, no, fair, absolutely. So yeah,
With
like
that being said,
came into this with pretty much zero expectations.
and with that being said, call me crazy, call me dumb, call me whatever. I enjoyed this one. And I will say again, the original can't be beat. It will never be beat. You can retell this story as much as you want, and especially in live action if you try that again. But the original is perfect. It will never be matched, and it will always be the superior version. I am stating this right now. If I had to choose between if you're a newcomer to this and you're wondering should I watch the remake or the original all the way, no doubt about it. But if for some reason, either if you have a hard time getting into animation or maybe because you're curious or something, I don't think it was a bad version.
I don't disagree. Like, yeah, again came into this with zero expectations, and no, it's not better than the original. It's not even as good as, in my opinion. But I would say this show is okay, fine, bordering on even good, bordering on good even.
I would
It's
actually say it's good.
Yeah, I would
Is it
honestly,
is it
personally, yeah, I do feel like it's good as well. There are things I disagree with because let us be clear, changes were made to the original story, right?
changes were made and
And some of those
obviously
changes I don't agree with, and some of those changes I don't like, and we'll get there. But for the most part, yeah, it's good. Like
yeah.
like if you're a fan of Avatar, what I would recommend is if you're a fan, just come into this one with zero expectations, knowing that things have changed and you're gonna get a different story to some degree here with some
Also try and
similarities. But
expect and also try and remember that there's no way that it's gonna top the original
no,
because I think people because and I will say if there's one flood that's not spoiler related that I will say even though the show does do its own thing and I appreciate it for that, you can still feel the original just hanging over it in a lot of ways, and
yeah,
there
there's
are things
nothing they can
and
do
there are
about that.
places where it's like like there are places because again because the original was such a masterclass of a show, there are moments where it's just like when it's not as good it kind of feels like the original is still
There
it's still in the shadow of the original, and by god is it in the shadow, but
some
uh
something I will give to this one, to the live action, something they have over the original is all of the extra media that came after the original, especially like the books and stuff.
mhm.
I do like that this one has that it can refer back to, and you see it do that a few times.
Yeah,
And
they do.
there's a few choices that they make for live action that they can use for that they pulled from the books that they got to do here that we never saw in the show that I think were good additions, right? That they add
Mhm.
that even if you don't like them here, even if you don't like this show, they can add to the original version of Avatar as well, right? In my opinion, like
Yeah.
they're good enough that I think, all right, I like what this adds, essentially. Like,
So
yeah,
all I'm gonna so again, I say that honestly, I am surprised by how much I like it, and
I would
also the
recommend giving it a watch, right? I
yeah.
understand a lot of people online weren't happy about it.
Um,
Like they came in, I think a lot of people came into this expecting more than what it was going to be.
Yeah, like my fiance told me about one of her friends, and I actually had to talk with that friend, and like people are kind of nitpicking this to hell and back, and probably because of some of the
And I
changes,
do get it, right?
and I
And
get
we'll
it.
probably do a little bit of that here. Just saying. But
Yeah, but here's the thing, though. This is why I said from the beginning, don't ever expect this to be the original, because if you're going to into this trying to hold it to the same level that the original is, then you're not going to like it. No way. But if you're
mm-mm.
going to say, you know what, it kind of there's no way that it's going to be the original because nothing can be. You might walk away happy by the end.
We're
Not to say it's
clarifying this so much because we hear you sharpening the pitchforks and lighting the torches. Don't come
yeah.
after us just yet.
And trust
Let
us,
us cook.
and yeah, well, I'm not saying necessarily let us cook, but also keep in mind that again, there are things we didn't like, and I am already ready to tell you about some of the stuff that are also kind of something not really spoilers, but do you want to talk about the cast, because I see this is a part that's really
Yeah,
divisive.
I I will say for the most part, I think all the actors do pretty good. I think they're the
Katara is the
the
only one I didn't like.
who
Katara.
I would say her and Aang have quite a few moments, and as well as Zuko, like most of the kid actors, right? Especially Katara, especially Aang, Katara to a degree, and then
I would actually disagree. Aang, I think, was
I
the
don't know.
best one.
I don't. I just. I don't think he was bad. I think some of his like lines were just very dry in a few
Oh yeah.
places.
To be
But I don't
honest,
blame
though,
him for
some
that. He's a young
yeah,
actor and,
I
learning still, right?
keep in mind that I'm not talking about their writings. I'm just talking about the actors. Like
Just
when
the
you see
actors?
them,
Yeah, I think
just as actors.
yeah, just as actors, like ignoring any writing, things and just any line reading, just as actors and them acting as the characters. For the most part, yeah, I like all of them. I think they're pretty good. I think they all do fairly well.
I love Aang. I think Aang was the like
He's not my
if the
personal
original
favorite. I think Ira's
like
better. I like the guy who
yeah,
plays
no,
Ira.
Iron is great, but like I still feel like if the original if the animated Aang came out of it the TV and looked real, this is what he would be like.
No, fair.
Like that, he was my favorite. Katara,
I
I
think
couldn't buy into it. Like Katara felt flenderized with the entire. She's the mom friend. I get that she's supposed to have like this motherly vibe to her, but it feels like they forgot about everything
I don't
else
think
that she has.
I'll wait till spoilers, but I think I know what the issue with Katara is. And I don't think it's that one necessarily.
I'll get to it too, but
Fair
just
enough.
in general, Sokka, I liked him. He has a good comedic delivery on lines, but I think because
Yeah,
it's not a
Sokka's great.
drawing, but because he's not a drawing, he's a human being. Then he's not as expressive and slapsticky as you would expect. But at the same time, it's an actual person. No way they're gonna live up to that. You get me? So
Yeah.
I'm also so Sokka was great. If I may quote a local YouTuber when he talked about the trailer for this, Zuko looks like a testicle.
I
I
don't think so.
okay, like
But I
I
get
don't
it.
know, the
I do
bald
I see
head
it.
looked odd. It looks so freaking weird. Not to discredit the actor, I actually liked, and there's something also in his voice that kind of reminds me of Dante Basco, just a bit.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah. I heard that as well. Like you can
Yeah,
definitely tell
so
he's emulating it a little bit, but he is still doing his own thing.
and I don't want to say, I'm not sure if she was announced or not, so I'll save that to spoilers. But let's just say that there's an actress in this that I I like her in the role, but and not to insult her or something, but she has those chubby cheeks that take away from the threatening level. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like that's the hard part in animation. I mean, oh, my apologies. I hit the mic. Um,
No, I was,
I'm just gonna fucking say it. Azula. is
Okay.
very
I'm trying to keep it as a spoiler
it's hard
because it's
because what I'm gonna say is, all right, fine, cough cough name looks very angular and very, inanimate. Like they animated her, right? The way they designed her model and everything in the animation, she's very, very pointy, very angular, and there's a reason for that, right? I mentioned that. It's
Mhm.
hard to make a human look like that, to be honest.
But
But I'm
again, and
definitely
not
not
doing
talking
so.
about Azula, cough, cough.
Okay, you already subject there. It doesn't. But here's the thing: I don't mind her. Like acted the part well, and also like she
Yeah,
still has this like beachy smile and expression, and like she gets those across well. But again, and it's no offense to the actor, to the actress, right? I hope it doesn't come, but I just see, her cheeks, and you want to pinch her, like, who's the bad bitch? Who's the bad villain? You are. I just, it drove me a bit nuts, but
I think
that's just
they also look younger than what they feel, right? I know they're not, but
yeah,
they look it, and that's the thing that kind of like throws it off a little bit too. I think.
yeah. But like I said, Iroh was great. I also enjoyed Ozai's actor. He was great too. Zhao's actor looks. Is it me or is there something about in his face that looks like Billy Crystal?
I did not catch that one. I didn't.
I don't know. Or maybe it's
I didn't
just
see it.
me, but I don't know. There are moments where when he has those like looks where he reminds me of Billy Crystal for some
Fair enough.
reason. So overall, before we go into spoilers, two like a kind of a two minute review. We think it's good, not the original, but then again, it could never be the original. So go in just try and have fun with it, and I think you'll walk away satisfied.
I mean, at the very least, right? Like we get some good fucking CGI bending. We get good live
Yeah.
action bending, man, and that's
Hmm.
like the best thing.
Yes.
The earth bending looks like fucking earth bending.
Hmm.
All of it just looks so good. Like at the
So,
very least, we got that part right.
and on that note, that's actually the first spoiler thing I want to talk about. So, if you want to see the show and you haven't yet, this is your chance to close the video,
Mm.
go watch the show, and come back. With spoilers are started in three, two, one. Still here? Okay. I assure you that the only reason the first scene of this show exists, because otherwise it didn't really have much of a point, but the only reason the first scene of this show existed is for them to show us we got the airbending right this time. You won't see five people go whoa, whoa, whoa for a tiny rock.
You're
We're going to give
absolutely
you
right. I feel like that's the only because the first scene is basically something that is this show original, and it's basically
yes,
an earthbender, doing some earthbending as like a spy in the Fire Nation, finding out, oh God, get these orders back to the Earth King because the Fire Lord's going to attack the Earth Kingdom. And we find out Ozai's like, that was all a deception. I'm smart. I'm actually going after the Airbenders. Ha ha ha.
yes.
But yeah, like it's only an earthbender doing earthbending and fighting off Fire Nation soldiers because like, yo, we want to get this out front and center. We got it this
Yeah.
time, guys. We did
Yeah,
it.
we want. I think because they knew that
Like we're
the
gonna be
scenes
proud
for
of
that
this, and
movie
we're gonna
is
show it off because we want you to be proud of us. And it's like, fair
yeah.
enough. You did do well. It is
It's
good
like
earthbending.
we're making fun of it, but at the same time, okay, you know what? If we are gonna start with a middle finger to the Shyamalan movie, might as well be this.
No, agreed. Fair enough. Like
Mhm.
you set
So
expectations properly in the first moment. I
yeah, like
I
I
respect
appreciate,
that.
I respect that the first thing they did was just there's not gonna be a for one tiny rock. There's going to be actual fucking earth bending in this.
And it looks good.
Uh,
So yeah, like I'm happy, right? Already, I'm like, all right, you know what? I'm satisfied. At the very least, I'm walking away with this one like, yeah, well, second chance, and you've at least nailed the bending part. Let's see if you can nail the story and the characters.
So first change already, and this is one thing that I always think people either complain about or kind of accept. I'm leaning towards the kind of accept. we are actually starting with Aang's backstory. We are not keeping it in mystery until a later time. And again, for the type of retelling that we're doing, you know what? Why not have a version where we start with that?
Yeah, I'm okay with it, and it gives us like a little bit more of Aang and Gyatso and their
Hmm.
relationship.
Yeah, which I also like. And also, just off the top, I think another kind of middle finger that the first thing we see is Aang actually smiling and playing and having fun. It's like again, they really want to show we learned from the mistakes of the past. This movie was 14 years ago. Forget about it, damn it. So from all of this, though, I will say I kind of like where this is going initially. That they think, oh, we are going to see it, and then we see him running away and freezing himself in water and stuff. But so I was kind of expecting for them to do the thing you know, where Aang is freed from the iceberg by Katara and Sokka. He might have that moment where he to him it's only been like a minute or something, that to him he's still in the same time frame, and then they tell him, "Oh no, you were actually frozen this entire time," and like it's like they're going this direction that he's gonna suddenly have this whiplash, and also for newcomers there will be this whiplash of like, fuck, it's been 100 years? What? But they don't play with it all the way to the end, which kind of disappointed me. Like, you had a really good moment there that you could have used, and you didn't.
Yeah, well, yeah, I agree. It's kind of one of those things of they move past it fairly quickly, right? Like it's, we get it out of the way, move on. It, I get you. Like I'm not super upset about it, right? But I do get what you mean. But the show does that a few times, and that's probably one of its flaws. I would say is that there are things from the original that I think this would have been beneficial to have or beneficial to like see to the end, but they move past it quite quickly. And we'll
And
get to a
like,
few more of them as we go on, but
I think that there's just one, it could have been such a powerful moment because, Aang suddenly finds out it's been 100 years, and he can't come back, and this is he can go back 100 years and change everything, and like it could have been such a dramatic reveal, like because imagine if you are. I'm also thinking there might be people who are exposed to the Avatar universe through this show. Imagine how
mm-hmm.
much of a big impact this could have been for them to like suddenly hear you've been gone for 100 years, and then like whoa, this is like a gut punch, and they kind of skim over it, and it's like you are almost there, like you have the right idea, you just didn't play the cards right.
Oh, fair. My issue, well, I mean, this kind of comes into my issue with Aang and how they kind of write him. He's a little bit like they. I feel like they give him just a little bit of that, sense of being a child and childlike, right? Because he is like 12, 13 years old in Avatar. But
Hmm.
and it kind of starts off immediately in the first episode. He's a little bit too preachy slash
Expositional.
yeah, like preachy, monologue expositional, whatever you'd like to call it. They give him a
There's
little
the
bit too much of
scene,
that because there's a scene
yeah, and
in the
that's
first episode where he does it, right?
like there's the scene like where he's talking to Appa, and it's like, I know who I am. I like to play around and do airbending and stuff, and he's also looking at the camera as it says, it's like, are you talking to Appa or to me? I know who you are because I saw the original.
And that's where I kind of
What?
got some of those dry line readings as well. Like this feels like you're kind of this. It feels a little bit too much script like, right?
Yeah,
Not
and
like you're
also how many
talking.
times, and like also again, I love the actor. I think in terms of portraying Ang, he was perfect. But the
Mm.
lines is like, how many times in this show does Ang mention that he wasn't around for 100 years and he disappointed everyone? How many times is he gonna mention this? And also another thing, Ang doesn't fucking waterbend
Yeah,
at least once
Can we talk
in
about
this
that?
entire thing.
That's probably one
Yeah,
of the things that I dislike the most about this show. I'll admit. Like that's like I'm
same,
gonna
same.
like they mention it so many times. Like, hey, I'm the Avatar. I need to master all four elements. I should, start learning waterbending. Katara, hey, Aang, why don't you start learning waterbending with me? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know.
Uh, and
That's
then by the
like,
end,
it is
and
a
then by the end,
choice. It is a choice to have the
yeah,
avatar. I have to master all four elements, not waterbend once in the entire show. And I want to point out, the show even does a thing in episode 7 where Pakun, like, the waterbending master that they went to go learn from, says, it was an unwise decision, it was an unwise decision to not learn waterbending on your way here,
yeah.
Avatar.
It's
It's
like,
like, show,
like
what? You can't
I
do this,
was
show.
no, I was this because this pissed me off too. Like, calm the fuck on. And also, this also gets me because then suddenly, in the end, they keep the point in the or like where Aang turns into the water into the giant water monster, and it's like, I'm sorry, no, no, this guy didn't even move a single drop of water. How is he Godzilla all of the sudden?
I'm willing to let that one go because, right, like the spirit deal, and you can say the spirit was doing all that,
I get it, but
and
it's
they
also
kind of
what
tried to
the.
play it off that way too. But I don't
Mhm.
disagree with you. It just feels off, and it feels odd because zero water bending from
And
the
then also, and
Avatar.
then a bit before it, it's like also Zhao is like master of only three elements and not all four. Doesn't have the same ring to it. It's like I don't know. Like, are
I
the
mean, well,
writers
currently
projecting?
currently he's only the master of one element because he's not done anything. And they do all of that to lead into, it's like, hey, Hakun's not going to be his master. Katara is, because she's a master. And it's like,
No,
but
and
if
like
that's what you were going for, why didn't he start learning with her from the beginning,
yeah,
show?
because again, the origin, and if the excuse is because the original did it that way, then it's a bullshit excuse. But it's also, I get it that again in the original he starts practicing with her, and then after Paku actually praises Katara as almost, and he does tell Aang, I think at the start of season 2, like well, I
Well,
guess
yeah,
Aang should call Katara master now, and it's
because
like,
that's the point.
fair
Because
enough.
Katara became a master, right? Because she learned from Pakun, she got Pakun to
Yeah.
recognize her. She went through all the motions, and that's another thing that I was kind of disappointed with. Is
Are we
concerning
talking?
Katara's story, is
Yeah.
that I see what they're
And I,
trying to go for. That, like, hey, I'm girl boss, right? Sort of deal. Like, I'll be the master. I'm good enough. I did all this. I don't need you to recognize me, sort of deal. You know?
before we
Okay,
get there, I just want to point out
I'll wait.
that there was a bit of like a big deal about when the creators of the show said we're going to remove Sokka's
Yeah,
sexism.
yeah. Well, like,
Honest,
yeah,
like
that, and yeah,
I was also kind of raising an eyebrow at it because it was part of his development. But at the same time, when they got to like Kyoshi, to the Kyoshi Warriors and stuff, it didn't feel like something was necessarily missing. Like, I still think it was, oh, so the development is just that he and Suki fall in love, and that's kind of weak. But it wasn't, in the bigger picture, it didn't really matter much. So it's like, okay, fine, whatever. There's a version without the sexism,
the
whatever.
way they handled it
And
was good
then,
enough.
yeah,
But
but then you remove Saka sexism, but you keep the plot point of the sexist teacher of, oh, girl waterbenders only heal, they don't fight.
yeah, which is wild, but sure.
It, no, it's so it's like, make up your damn mind.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the problem is also, right, it doesn't work for Katara's story because it feels like, hey, we're doing this because we want to make Katara feel like, because they even have, like, Zuko still say the line, like, you peasant, you finally got a master and everything. And she's like, yeah, me, is her response this time, is, instead of it being Pakun this time, right? The issue
Mhm,
is, though, is that, or my issue with it was that it felt like, hey, we're giving Katara this, story of, she's built into this, she's built up to being this good this entire journey,
mhm,
and she deserves this. And I get it, and that's a fine way to tell Katara's story. It's different.
yeah,
That's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. The issue
mhm.
is that we didn't really see any of that build up. We saw little
The
bits here or
the
there, but not
only the
enough, in
only
my
thing
opinion.
the only thing which is like, where she actually comes up with the trick of like of the icicles, where she says, "Well, I saw Earthbender do this, so I figured
Yeah, like
I
the
can make it this work with waterbending."
slide rock
And it's
discs off. She does it with ice. Yeah, it's a neat thing.
like,
It's a cool
like
idea, but
that's a cool idea. It's anything,
it's the
but
only
it's
thing, like you
just
said.
that.
Yeah.
It's like again, we did this one thing and then it stopped. This doesn't necessarily make you a master, and I get what they were trying to do here. I get it. It's just again, like I said, with the idea of Aang finding out that he's been in essentially a coma for 100 years. You had the right cards, you just didn't play them well.
And and that's kind of the thing, right? Like from the show. Yes, Pakun was sexist and didn't want to teach Katara at first. But we still had all the build up. No, Katara's good enough. She can do this, right? And she proves that when she fights against Pakun, right?
Yeah, so it's like, why
In the
did she need
original
Paku
show.
to begin? Yeah, so but in this is just so why did she need Paku to begin with?
And we got the fight here, and it was a fine fight. It looked good. I have no
Mhm.
issues with that. But then he still doesn't acknowledge her. He still doesn't teach her, and she's like, "Well, I'm still a master, anyways." And it's like, but you don't feel like one. You don't feel like you're
It's
as
like
good as original show Katara,
yeah,
right? Because it feels like you
yeah,
kind that we.
definitely. It's
It feels like we, the audience, didn't get to see that. It feels like it just
and
happened off
I
screen, and we're
also
expected to just,
and I
okay, yeah, sure.
still say I still say a lot of it comes down to the performance because this
I
act
don't blame her. I
she
blame the
just
writing personally.
like there's a writing thing too, yeah, but there's just something about it when because when I look back at the original, right? Mae Whitman has range. Like she when she has the motherly wisdom, she's softer and more in control and calm. When she's supposed to be, motivational, she's loud. She's loud. She has a presence. She can speak up. And when she's angry and stuff, she also has, those bits of immaturity and like that she can actually get annoyed and that she's brash and so this actress just felt like she has one tone and it's the motherly tone which doesn't work for everything. That's just because Katara is known for it and is good at it doesn't mean that that's her only trait. And when she says you're looking at her, when Zuko says that she found a master, I don't feel like there's no hint of anything else. They're just of like a proud Jewish mother. Like she's proud of herself, and I don't she felt off to me. And no offense to the actress, I'm sure she's a fine girl. I just didn't like the either it's the direction or the script or whatever. She didn't come across as more than just this one trait of the character.
I I didn't feel that as much. I think a lot. Again, I blame the writing more than I do her. I think they just and the direction. I don't think they gave her enough, or it was good enough. Personally, I don't think it was necessarily her fault entirely, at the very least. But at the same time, I'm not willing to judge her as much because she is just 17 and she's been in like, not counting this, like 3 shows, and that's it.
Well, there are actors I know who haven't been in anything, and they're like their first, like
And their first performance is amazing. Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely fair.
who were also young girls. So again,
True,
maybe
true.
it's a direction,
Like,
maybe it's a scripting. I don't know. She didn't come across as Katara to
which
me.
is fair. Which is fair, right? Like, I do get some of that, right? I do understand what you're saying, and I feel it a little bit too. I'm willing to give her a chance to grow more into the role at the very least. I think she can do it. We just need to see a bit more of her, right? But
Yeah.
again, I come back to, I just feel like they kind of wanted a story here for Katara, and I don't think it's a bad one. It's different from the original, absolutely. Won't disagree with that. But I don't think it's a bad way to do her story. I just don't think we got enough of that build into that, right? Like the moments that needed to pay off, we didn't get enough build up for them to pay off well, in my opinion, for Katara. Like the
Yeah,
fight with Zuko, at the Northern Water Tribe and stuff like that.
yeah. Speaking of, in terms of performances that were either writing or something, what was Roku in this show?
Uh, I don't know. I mean, you can definitely tell they're setting up for like the Roku backstory later, right?
Yeah, but
Because
just
because
something
he's
about the
like,
performance,
I
though.
loved the like 1,000 yard stare. you know,
Yeah,
like friends will betray you. You know, be careful
yeah,
with
but
friends.
I don't
Things
know,
will
but there is
happen. Thousand
something
yard
about
stare into the
yeah,
distance.
it's,
I'm
and
I'm
I like that
traumatized.
too. I
It was
like that
kind of
too, but it
silly.
also felt yeah, but it also felt like considering what we know of Roku in the it felt a bit like what the fuck are you?
I think they were trying to play off of the idea that he's friends, right? That he was, quote unquote, like he's friends with Yatso, right, in his
Yeah,
life.
most likely.
And they're trying to play off
Hmm.
the idea like, oh, he's similar to Gyatso. He's a little bit silly, but he can also be serious, and he's traumatized because Sozin, I think it is. Is that it? No,
Yeah, Sozin. Yeah,
Sozin. Yeah,
Sozin's coming.
yeah, Sozin. Sozin betrayed him and everything, right?
Hmm.
I get what they're going for. It's definitely different, but I also think they kind of, you know, what's the word? Like he's not the avatar spirit that he's not the only avatar spirit we see in this show, obviously, but
Which is actually something, if we're going to transition to it,
well,
this is one thing that I really liked.
before I get there, and I agree with you, but just before that, like they give a lot of the work that he does in the original show to Kyoshi and Kuruk as well, right,
Yeah,
from the Water Tribe, which yeah, I kind of liked. Like, how
I
many times
really
did we
like
ever
that.
see we've never seen Kuruk, right?
Yeah, that's exactly
Ever.
it. We never saw him, and like it was actually interesting to see that there was an avatar who was actually really stuck on the spirit side of things to the
And I
point that he
think
was mostly in the spirit realm and not the human realm. That's really interesting.
I
That's
think
cool. I like that.
the information they gave us about Kuruk is canon, like it's stuff that's been in other canon
Yeah,
material, I think.
yeah
Don't quote me.
it's not like let's say it's obviously something that maybe was established in one of the comics or like offhand interviews or something like that, but
Mm.
it was never said in the actual shows. But you know what? As
No.
someone who never really is read or saw any of those, I'm like, you know what? That's actually really cool to learn. That's actually, I got something out of this that I didn't get from the original. All right,
Oh,
cool.
fair. Like, yeah, I think there's quite a few things we get that we didn't get from Richard. Like, we learn a bit more about Kyoshi that we didn't know. Um,
Hmm. Like Kyoshi, I actually really like that she's the first avatar that Aang speaks to because it makes sense because he visits her island. So
yeah.
obviously, why not? And also when he learns about the power of the avatar state, I kind of like that they also kind of combined it with the episode where she takes over his body to explain what happened on her trial
Hmm.
in season 2. There was an episode where she did that, so it was a combination of things, and it was really cool. Again, it's not what happens in the original, but you know what? I don't mind. It works for the story.
Well, that and
That was really interesting.
we didn't get Roku doing that either. So I think it's nice that we get at least one of the one of the previous avatars doing that. Because Roku
Hmm.
is supposed to, if I'm not mistaken, he does that in the first season, right? For Aang when they visit the
Well,
fire
they do
shrine.
live that he they visit his shrine, and that's where he first talks to him, and that's also
Yeah,
when he also tells him about that Thousand's coming is coming, and what he needs to do,
yeah.
all that jazz.
But like what I was thinking was right is if I'm not mistaken, when they first visit, when Aang first visit that shrine, right? There's this thing of Roku like taking over with the Avatar spirit and like doing his fire breath thing and stuff like that. And it's like, yo, fire sages, get your shit together. I'm
Hmm.
Roku, remember? This is
Yeah.
why.
Hmm.
Right. But he didn't do that here, which is fine. Not a biggie. Nothing wrong with that. But
Yeah.
we at least got to see Kyoshi doing it and everybody being like, "Oh shit, run. We didn't
Hmm.
come here to deal with that."
Yeah.
And it's like you can tell everybody remembers you don't fuck with Kyoshi.
Which I mean, that's also kind of accounting. You don't fuck with Kiyoshi.
No,
Like
just don't.
so, and so again, the previous avatars, I liked what they did with them,
I also
and
like that they set up like all three of them feel different. They have this similar idea of like, no, the avatar should stay alone, but they have it for different reasons, right? Like you can tell Kyoshi's like,
yeah,
no, you have to be alone because you need to be merciless, and if you're not alone, you can't be merciless. Roku, it's like, no, you need to be alone because you can't count on friends; they will, betray you. I have trauma.
yeah.
And then
Hmm.
for Kudok, right, it's like, no, you need to be alone because
The
the av-
loss that
yeah, because the loss you will experience otherwise, right?
you.
You don't want to
And
experience that.
that's another thing that I also, because they all have this thing, but they also feel different from each other, which does lead to anger, realizing, you know what, I can have a team just because this and that happened to the previous avatars doesn't mean I can't have my own, my own entourage that I can rely on.
Yeah.
And at first it does get to him, but then he realizes, you know what, I'm making, I've kind of not been around for 100 years, so you know what? Fuck it, might as well. Why start listening to the previous avatars now? So yeah, so there was that, and I will say though there was a point where like Qatar said that there was a like one day they'll write the Legend of Aang, and I'm like, fuck you, like it was such a heavy hand, like this was so out of nowhere. This was painful. But all right, but again, and I also like that despite all the like we mentioned, all of them do feel different, that again to some degree, Roku is a lot more traumatized, but you can also tell that he's a bit more lightheaded in a way that is like, I'm more fun in games, while Kiyoshi is like super serious. I'm a warrior first and foremost. Like, we need to be ferocious, and then you have Korak again, who spent more time in the spirit realm compared to the human realm. That's really cool. Like we
Hmm.
see how they're the same but also different from one another. That's kind of the point. That's a good idea for this, and so I enjoyed that. I am trying to think because I feel like there was something I want to say regarding that. What was it? Um. Okay, something I want to ask you about.
Hmm.
What do you feel about Aang being able to drag Katara and Sokka into the spirit world?
Oh yeah, for that episode, I was fine with it. I didn't see anything wrong with it inherently because I mean, you realize what they were doing, right? They were kind of combining the spirit episode where we first see our where we get our first look into the spirit world, and that episode where Aang has to go off on his own because Katara and Sokka are sick, right? Like they're combining those two episode ideas into one.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm fine with it because I think it's a clever way of giving us both of those episode ideas and with the blue spirit and everything all in one.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm fine with it personally. I'm okay with it, right?
Yep.
And
Uh,
I like how it led us into seeing Ko, who by the way did not realize at all. Ko's voiced by George Takei.
really,
Yeah, I just saw this in the Wikipedia.
which is interesting.
I
It's
did
interesting
not
because
notice.
yeah, no, because he was in the original too, not the
Yeah,
same character, but
no.
so that's really cool.
Yeah, but that is a cool note. But yeah, I didn't even notice like that. George Takei's got some fucking range because you could have
Mm,
fooled me. I would not have
yeah,
guessed.
like
But according to the
yeah,
wiki,
because
that's George Takei. What?
yeah, so because you usually know him,
I missed
because of
that.
this,
Wild.
because of his very deep, like, oh my, and all that stuff. So it's nice to see that he actually has range, like them.
Like wild. Would not have expected that. But also, by the way, fucking Ko, like holy shit, the CGI on him, creepy as fuck.
Yeah, no,
Like
he
he was
was
creepy in the original animated show too.
yeah, but now when it's actually like realistic, it's even
God,
creepier.
yeah, it's worse. Don't want to
Like
see
uh,
that shit ever again.
no, like
You
save
did
this
your
one for
job.
Halloween, people. Yeah, you save this one for Halloween. But yeah, no, he was creepy, no doubt.
But yeah, I
Also,
liked it. I I thought it was a little weird, but I'm also okay with it that they did, like, hey, Princess Yui's actually in the spirit world and she's like a little fox
I
spirit.
am I am on and off about that one.
It's weird, it's different, but I don't hate it. I don't know if I like it, but I don't hate it. It makes sense to some degree, I suppose, because she is like touched by the moon spirit and everything. So it's like, I guess that makes sense, but I feel like, fish, but at the same time, how would you have made that work, right? Her being a fish, in the spirit world instead of a fox. So it's like, eh.
I do like.
It's
I do
weird,
kind of like the.
but
I do
I
like
get it.
the.
It works, but it's weird. It's a weird choice, but also it works, and I get it, and I don't hate it. I kind of like it, but it's weird. It's I don't know how to
Yeah,
explain it.
yeah. Like I get you. I do enjoy the flashbacks. Katara and Sokka got to see that. Like Katara, we knew it was coming, so might as well get it out. But Sokka was also interesting that it feels like
And
that he had this like small amount of win, and then he hears his father go like he didn't actually earn it.
yeah, that brings us into another story. Like Sokka didn't really have this story of like being a disappointment to his dad in the original, right? What do you think about that?
Um, I I kind of like it. Like I don't mind it because in the original we don't see the father until much later,
Yeah.
and the only real thing we have with it is like this one episode where one of their father's friends is actually taking him having him take the test for him.
Hmm.
No, just take the test right there and then. So
Hmm.
I kind of like so I do like the idea of
Well,
showing that he took the test when his father was still around, but his father is still like think maybe he's not ready yet because he needed help. And
yeah,
I think it also kind of ties into the theme of are are you can you stand on your own or do you need a crew to push you? I feel because
yeah,
Ang
they're
is kind of
definitely
going
going with
through
that
this.
like that team thing, right? Like hey, is it okay to rely on your team, and is it okay to be like quirky and do things differently, right? Like that's kind of what they're going with for Sokka for his growth. And I'm okay with that because, like we said, they did get rid of the sexism part, so he's not growing in that way anymore. Which I think this
Um,
is an okay replacement. It's fine and it
and
works,
again, kind of
but it
like
is
with
different.
Katara
Let's be clear.
too, that she didn't really need a master because she became her own master. So there's this thing of individual you as an
Individuality, yeah,
individual rather than you as a group. So I didn't mind it. I think again, if we're going to retell the story, give me something new.
yeah,
And I
and
think this was fairly new,
yeah, and
and
it,
I
it
liked it.
it's different enough. It's new enough, but it still feels mostly in character. You could kind of see it, so it's like I'm okay with that, right?
Mhm. Yeah, I agree.
But yeah, like I was fine with them being dragged into the spirit world too. It was different, and I'm okay with that. And it does it fully make sense considering the spirit world and Avatar. No, but I could see it? Question mark
Yeah,
happening.
yeah, I agree. I definitely agree. Now, speaking of changes, there was something I want to talk to you about because there is
Mm-hmm.
something that now that because this time we already know about we already have Ozai and Azula have been an active part of the show, right? We don't have to wait.
Spoilers.
We are in the spoiler section. What are you talking about?
Listen, some of us spoil
So,
things before the spoiler section.
okay, who cares at this point? So we already have them in the show playing a bigger part.
Yeah, we,
So
we see we see Ozai a lot more in this,
yeah, we see Azad more, and
and we see
Azula is
Azula. Yeah.
yeah. So I like that we see them interact more, and also I think we got some new dimensions. There's a scene that really stuck with me where like after Zhao reports that the avatar has been found, and it's kind of implied that we mentioned that Zuko discovered him, but he's also on the hunt, and there's like a race between Zhao and Zuko
Mhm.
on who catches Aang first, and there's this thing where like Azula tries to kind of show Ozai that she's ready to
Well,
take over.
she also like talks up Zhao
Yeah,
somewhat too, like try to get him like,
wait,
yo.
yeah, one she said, but she does say, Dad, if Zhao found the Avatar, we probably should, give him more support and stuff. And then she also mentions like, I always admired how you handle this and that and do this and this, and but then Ozai does kind of cut it out, like. you know that you could give your brother just as much credit
Well, yeah,
because
like
he's the one who actually found the avatar.
well,
And also, not only that, I don't like when people kiss up to me, and you can tell that it hurt Azula to some. Like you can tell even at that scene that she was taken aback by that, and she's letting it out on the people who spar with
yeah,
her.
yeah,
And
like
I
the scene you're
found
talking
it
about.
interesting.
No, I agree. I actually really like that too because there was this thing of like, yeah, she was talking up Zhao and trying to get her dad to like give more credit to Zhao, and her dad's like, no, no, Zuko found the Avatar. It was all Zuko's doing, and his persistence and his tenacity and blah 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 things I'm gonna say to talk up your brother was what did it, and I'm proud of that. I'm also not proud of you for trying to be deceitful and butter me up and talk up this Zhao character. And it's like
Hmm.
that's actually kind of good because you can see he's gaslighting her, right? Like it's nice to see
Yeah,
that because we never really see
and
him do anything to Azula in the original show.
yeah, because in the original it always seems like Azula was a daddy's girl, Zuko was a mommy's boy.
Yeah, and like
That's it.
yeah, and that's why Azula's evil, right? No, you can
Hmm.
see like the reason why she's evil in this one is like no, he's literally gassing up her brother just to piss her off. Like you can tell it.
Yeah, and I like that because it shows that it's because don't get me wrong, I love Azula in the original because of how psychotic and evil she is. Nothing, but I also like that you can tell that if anything, the reason she's like this because Ozai is fucking with her essentially. He does this on purpose to get on her nerves. It's even more psychotic to some degree.
There is a worry though,
Hmm.
based off how they're doing this. Like a thought occurred in the back of my mind is like
Yeah.
while watching it was that you're doing it this way. I really hope you're not going to do any sort of redemption thing for Azula.
Oh no no no. Okay, you know
I don't
something.
think they will based off what we've seen, but I, you know, talking to
I
you here,
appreciate
Avatar people, don't do that. You
like
know,
I appreciate what they're doing right now, but if they're planning for it or a redemption arc, that's doing way too much,
or
way
not
too quick.
even not a redemption arc, just having her like turn on her dad at some point, right, and just do a
No,
thing to help out
this
Team
would go against
Avatars a
that.
last moment. Yeah, don't do that. It's not Azula's
No,
character.
that's
Azula has
not
to
a,
be evil bitch supreme throughout the entire way, all the way to the end. Like that's just who she is. I'm sorry, you can't redeem her, unfortunately. So don't do that. I'm a
no.
little
Don't
worried
do
about that,
redemption.
but from what we've seen, I don't think they're gonna go that route. But
We can hope. We can hope.
you know, just in case, just don't do that. So we're clear. But I do like what you're doing with Azula. It's good. I like the hey, let's show you a bit more of how fucked up her relationship with her dad actually is. I like that. That's good. The original didn't give us stuff like that all that much, if at all. It's nice to see that, right?
And also, speaking of that, because in here, I also like the flashback to the Agni Kai where Ozai scarred Zuko's face. You have this part where I like that Zuko actually fought back a bit more in this version. In the
I
original, he didn't.
I'm of two minds about it. I liked the original where it was basically him like, no, I'm sorry, I didn't know I would be fighting you. I don't want to fight you, Dad. Right? I kind of like
Mhm.
that part in the original where he just refused to fight his father, and his
Yeah,
father still injured him. Right? But I do like the idea that they're going with here. It's like, well, no, his father did, goad him into fighting him, and he did fight him a little bit, but then when he actually got the upper hand on his dad and actually had the ability to like, in the fight himself, he chose not to.
it's
I
like
kind of like that too. Like, it's a
it's one
different
of
way of
the
doing it.
yeah, it's definitely a different way of doing it, and like you can go A or B about it. It's
Yeah,
not really something
I like
that's
both.
walls.
I think I
Yeah,
lean more towards the original's way of doing it, but I do
yeah.
think both are fine.
But I also like here that the Zuko actually has the upper hand,
Hmm.
but he doesn't take it, and Ozai kind of uses it when Zuko is recovering. Ozai kind of uses it to like teach him a lesson that showing resentful makes you weak.
Yeah,
If you do that, this is not a So in a way, Ozai is
don't be
kind of
compassionate like your mother. Yeah,
yeah. In a way, they cannot write Ozai as if he were Thanos to some degree. That he would tease you, he would bring, but like you can tell that there's kind of a purpose. Not that I agree with that by any means,
No,
but
like you can tell,
there's
like he is trying to be a parent, just a really fucked up bad parent, right? This
exactly,
is not the kind of
exactly.
dad you want to have, but he is technically being a dad here.
Hmm.
You know,
And then I also like that he does tell Azula, "You stop playing games with me," and Azula tells him, You are making me play games." And then when she shows him she can do she can do the lightning bending, he says, "You know what? You're ready to head out." And the first thing we see her do is take Omashu,
yeah.
which is like that was a really cool cliffhanger. By the way, this was like if I had to cut, this is a good place to cut.
No, fair. I mean, speaking of Amashu, well, one thing since we've talked a little bit of it, but since we're still kind of on Azula, what do you think about no blue firebending? Like, I think we
There
saw
are
like a
moments.
glimpse of it right
Yeah,
here or there,
there's a glimpse in the, I think it's in the final episode or like
and
one.
then in a
There's a
earlier
glimpse of
episode too, when she's fighting one of her firebending instructors, I think you see like a glimpse of blue firebending as
it.
well.
And
What do you think
I'm
about
not sure
no?
if it's. I think maybe now that we saw her do the lightning bending, maybe it's gonna come in later.
Yeah, I'm thinking that's
I
what they're gonna
think.
do. But what do you think about her not having it to begin with?
Honestly, it's one of those things where like kind of I know it's a part of her character to some degree, but I guess maybe they're trying to build up that she's not there yet,
No, it's fine.
or that, or
But also,
again
it never
one of
felt in the
those.
original. It never in the original show felt like it was something that was truly unique, right? Like no one ever really talked about how or why her firebending was blue, if I'm not mistaken.
Which I think adds to the threatening of it because whoa, why is it blue?
Yeah, no fair. But
I
if
with
they're doing something a little bit different here, I'm okay with that. It's fine.
hmm
Yeah, it's one of those.
and
You're gonna hear that probably a lot. Like this is fine. It kind of depends on where you go
maybe
with it, but so far it's fine.
But so you know what? Before we move on to the Omashu stuff, I just want to
Mhm.
say, ruined forever, 0 out of 10. Zuko doesn't want honor anymore. He wants glory now.
He wants his life back at the very least.
No, but no,
Which
because I think in the first they said he said glory like twice, and not once that is mentioned honor. So I texted Steph, my fiance, and told her Zuko doesn't want honor anymore. He wants glory. 0 out of 10, worst remake ever. And she was like, "No, how could they?"
no
So
honor for Zuko.
yeah, but for the record, I'm just joking around.
No, yeah, yeah.
Obviously, it doesn't matter.
You
I just thought
you
it's
would
funny.
dare joke about no, you would how dishonorable of you.
Motherfucker, I'm a Sonic fan. I don't have any honor. I don't have the power to say I like or dislike something, knowing that the whole defense want to
Dante
kill me.
Bosco would be
Uh,
disappointed in you.
Actually, Dante Bosco is Dante. I'm not sure if you've seen it, but there is a video of like the actor for Zuko in this show meeting Dante Bosco, and both of them say the "That's rough, buddy" line at the same time.
That's kind of cute. That's
Yeah, and
adorable.
actually, like they say that like it's both of them, and then like a Sokka's actor meets the original, and both of them say, "My first girlfriend turned into the moon," and then it cuts to the two Zuko's going, "That's rough, buddy."
Honestly, I'm okay with that. That's adorable.
Mhm.
But I mean,
And
I love
there's
that
and like
Dante
also
Bosco's always willing to do stuff like that. He's
yeah, no,
genuinely a fun dude. He is
Dante
wonderful.
Basco is just like he's one of those teddy bears. From what it
He
seems like,
is he is a
he's awesome.
lovely person. Like absolutely, like go up and hug that man. He will allow you to do so. He
Yeah,
does not care. He is lovely.
yeah, and in the video I mentioned, there's also like he couldn't make it, but like Aang's actor in the show got like a voice message from the original Aang, and he tells him that you look like a more badass version of what I was at the age when I did this role. So I'm looking, and like you can tell that new Aang was like, that's the guy. This is the guy. Like he was legit excited. It was really adorable.
Yeah, no, like I have seen like one or two of them, but I've not seen all of them. Yeah, that's adorable. That's great. I love that they did stuff like that. That's cool. Do stuff like that. It's fun.
Yes. Mhm. By the way, on this note, I did want to tell you that the original, that for some reason they dubbed this into other languages for some reason,
Really?
and Yeah,
Did not
like
know.
I when I set up the
Didn't pay attention
subtitles,
to
I
that.
saw suddenly that there was a Hebrew dub, and I'm like, the fuck, why?
That
But
would be wild.
yeah, but here's the thing, though. The apparently two voice actors from the original Hebrew dub are back for this show.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
For Iroh and for Ozai. Now, if you can take a guess what other character Ozai's voice actor did in not in Hebrew, obviously, another Disney character.
Another Disney character?
Okay, Disney character from the Renaissance era.
Renaissance era. Oh man. Hmm.
You get one get.
Hades?
No, okay, you're not. So
Damn. That that's
Pumbaa.
like Pumbaa. I would not have guessed Pumbaa. Would
I
never
know
have
that.
guessed Pumbaa.
I know. That's why I said
The
I
fact that you
because
mentioned,
there's no way.
I was thinking Hades because it's like, oh, Hades, Lord of Hell, fire, Fire
No,
Lord Ozai.
no.
That maybe it's that. Pumbaa would never have guessed Pumbaa.
Can you just imagine? Can you just imagine like Azula being annoyed, and then also is like a Kuna Matata daughter?
Well, someone edit that in, fan dub that something.
Please.
That would be hilarious.
For the record, he changes his voice. He's not doing the same voice, but like it's the same dude, so that's
Oh, if
fine,
it was the same voice, that'd be even better, though. That's
Uh,
kind of hilarious, though.
I just love your reaction when you said Pumbaa. Whoa, I wouldn't have
But
guessed.
just thinking of him like, oh
Eating
man,
bugs and
no, just thinking of the Akuna Matata line and just different scenes of this show now is running through my mind, and I'm just like smiling ear to ear because that's kind of hilarious. Talking with
especially when
Zuko.
it says like where we attacked the northern Water tribe just as a distraction while we take Omashu, Hakuna Matata.
Oh, that's too good though. That's
It's
kind of
amazing.
hilarious.
You know something? How much you wanna bet that people are listening to this and
You're
they're only
weak,
like,
son. You're weak,
look, and
son. You show too much compassion. Akuna Matata. Oh
you
Lord.
know that people are listening to this and are probably like, animators, write it down, write it down. They want to edit. Okay. Anyway, moving on with the show.
Fighting Zuko
So,
during the Agni Kai. Is that all you've got,
no,
son?
enough. No,
Akuna Matata, show me the true
no, we're
way.
not doing that. We're not doing that. No, enough.
It's too good. You got me started now.
I made a mistake.
You did.
That's rough. That's rough, buddy.
It is.
You want
It's
to know
so
something that is
good,
gonna make
bro.
you laugh even. uh, he's also the,
Oh man.
uh, okay, I'll save the other fun stuff I have to tell you
Oh
about this
boy.
for
There's
after the
more.
podcast.
No, you can't now.
And that's why I'm saving it. I'm not telling you
Oh, that's hilarious
now.
though. Hakuna Matata.
Hakuna
Mm,
Matata, indeed. Go watch The Lion King, best Disney movie ever. Anyway,
true.
moving on. So, I guess finally we are going to talk about Omashu.
Yeah. I
Honestly,
that's
most in some of the best changes they made, if you ask me.
yeah. No, I would agree. Yeah. Like honestly, combining Jet and Psy's story with him being kind of like
Yeah,
supplying the Fire Nation with different inventions and stuff into the same area of Amashu.
yeah, that was brilliant.
Yeah, because I think a lot of fans tend to agree. Like, while they like those stories individually, a lot of fans would be like, Jet's kind of eh.
Yeah, I didn't really care for the Jet story, but combine it with this, and like again, such a clever idea. Such
Yeah,
a
this
clever
this
idea.
was something I was going to mention. Like they do that with as I mentioned with Spirited Away, combining the Spirit Away episode where we first get our first look at the spirit world with the
Hmm. With the
Sokka
Blue
and
Spirit.
yeah, with the Blue Spirit and Sokka and Katara getting kind of sick, right, and Aang having to go off on his own for a bit.
Mhm.
Excuse me, and the Yu Yan archers and everything. There's some clever combination stuff that they do that works, and I think Umashu is the perfect example of that, combining Jet and Psy's story with fuck, what's his kid's name? I
I
forget.
forgot the kid's name,
But it's
but
basically he's the inventor. You know, the story of the inventor with them living at the like one of the air temples, right, and occupying that, and Aang thinking they were airbenders, but they're not. You know,
Mhm.
combining those
Yeah,
two like stories that served their purposes, but weren't like
yeah.
standout
There were
moments
obviously,
of the show, right?
yeah, like there were like filler episodes that like were good, but not,
Yeah,
but nothing.
like
So
I wouldn't
and
say
like
filler.
it
Like
was.
they serve a purpose, right? But they're not as
Mhm.
strong as other episodes that came before and after them, right?
Yeah,
It's
definitely, and
but yeah, essentially, it's really clever to combine that here. It makes a lot of
mhm.
sense.
And also combine it with Boomy because essentially Sai is gonna sell this invention to Boomy in order
And
to, and
combining
then
it with Secret Tunnel.
yeah, man, like again, but you see how many elements they managed to combine here, and it actually works and makes sense. And
Yeah.
even then, not all of it is the same because, like, another change I kind of liked is in this version, Boomy is kind of pissed at Aang for disappearing,
Hmm.
and like it felt real, it felt earned to a degree.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like it's very different, and we get to see, right. Like Boomy's still a strong Earthbender. We get to see all that, but he does feel like an old man. He does feel a little bit. He does feel like hey, these two people were friends, but then when he needed his friend most, he just vanished, right?
Yeah,
I
and
do like that. It is
mhm.
interesting. The only thing I would say, and I guess this kind of brings us to this moment as well, I don't hate what they did. I liked how, they did the secret tunnel stuff, except this time it was not Katara and Aang and then Sokka with all the singing
Yeah,
people. It was Sokka and
honestly,
Katara.
honestly, considering the writers behind the show said, how do we turn this show into like a version of like into like how do we make this
How do we
Hunger
Game of
Game,
Thrones this? Cough, cough, cough,
Game of
cough.
yeah, Game of Thrones, and then it's like, but and then you take the scene which is supposed to establish a romantic connection between Katara between Katara and Aang and give it to Katara and Sokka. It's like, what are you,
Cersei and Jamie
what?
Lannister turn around. Huh? Did we
Yeah,
hear our names?
yeah, there you go.
But that's not what they're doing. But I get you. But I guess are they even gonna do a Katara and Aang relationship in this one? Because it seems like they're
I
not.
mean, so far no, but then again, season one was like season one. I don't know.
Season one was setting it up at least. They didn't do really.
Yeah,
At least it didn't feel like
mm,
any here to me
no,
set up for Katara
no,
Aang.
no. Honestly, you're right. No, there was no setup to it.
Which
Oh man, imagine the hate mail they're gonna get if they're going for Katara and Zuko in it.
oh man.
Imagine
Well,
the hate.
I-
I wouldn't mind. You know what? Might as well have the version, but it's like imagine the
it's
pissed off
different,
people.
but there will be so many people upset with them. But there'd be a lot of people like, yes, finally my time has come. There'd be those people too, but I'm I'm of the mind of I'm not against it. I'm fine with it. It's different, and as I've always said, if you're going to do a remake, I want you to do different things personally. I want to see, I'm always going to be of that mind and of that opinion of if you just give me what I've already seen again but in a different, media form like this being live action compared to the original's animation, I'm for the most part I'm more than likely going to be sitting there asking, why don't I just go watch the original if you're just telling me the exact same story again? What are you
Yeah, there you
doing
go.
that's because if you're not doing it,
Mhm.
because if it's not as good as, or if you're not doing it better, and there was, as we said, I'm sorry, I think you made a lot of good choices, show. I think you are fun and enjoyable, but you were never going to be able to do better than the original.
But
And
then
it was
again,
doubtful
that's
that you would even be able to remotely compare to the original. And that's not your fault.
yeah,
The original's just that damn good. It's that high a bar.
and that's kind of what the note we started on by saying there's no way
So
it's gonna compare, so might as well just do what you can
yeah, to
to.
like do your own thing, try and, live up to some expectations and be, respectful of the original material, but also do your own thing. And I think you'll be fine. I kind of want that because I don't want to just, watch the same thing again because as I said, I'm just going to sit there feeling like, wow, I'll just go watch the original again because that was better and I'll just get the better experience.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I'm again glad they're doing their own thing here. It is different. There's some similarities, but it is different enough.
Yeah.
And
And
I,
it's
I
also
like that
changes, and I just want to say also that these are changes that I feel make sense to the story. Like
for
if
the
you're
most
gonna
part.
retell it, at least
Aang
most of
not
these
doing any
changes will.
waterbending at all
No,
whatsoever.
that's bullshit. That's dumb. That's
That's not
dumb. This is a good.
that's a bad choice. You know, that's a it's
Yeah,
a
that's a bad
choice. I don't even
choice.
know if it's bad or good. It's a choice though.
Mhm.
Leaning more a
Definitely a
lot more toward yeah terrible, but you know whatever you do you I guess.
Mhm.
But yeah, like
Yeah,
I don't
but
agree with every change they made, but many of them I think are outright fine to
many of
even
them,
good.
yeah, many of them are well fine and even good. I agree. Like a lot of them, like because they felt sensible in the context of the world and the context of the story and everything. It felt like, all right, you know what? If we're gonna do a retelling of this, why not? This works.
Hmm.
I appreciate this. And I guess since we kind of covered everything, what do you think? What would you want for the show going forward? Because most likely we're
I
gonna get a
mean,
set.
fucking give us Aang doing. I swear to God, if we go through season two, right? If we get a season two and we go through season two and he doesn't do a single bit of fucking earthbending, what are you doing?
Yeah,
This is
no,
supposed to be the Avatar. Like,
no, I'm telling you
I
right
kind
now,
of
if
want
we,
to see them do that just because I think that would be wild. I'm
no,
the Avatar.
you
I
know,
need to be mastering
im-
all four elements.
yeah,
Never
imagine
water
if they
bends.
go through the entire, if he
Never
actually makes it to the
earthbends.
fight with Ozai, and not even a single water
No
bending
earth,
left.
no water bending, no earth bending, no fire bending. He only air bends. But he's the Avatar. Got to master all four elements. I kind of want to see them do that because that would be wild.
It'll be wild, but it's also really fucking stupid. This is
Oh, it's
like
absolutely, it'd be horrible. It's so dumb.
and the other thing that you know, one of the more interesting things about book two, the original, is that Aang needs to learn the element opposite to his. So like now you
And
have
that,
to kind of combine it with the
yeah,
water bending,
that
and what
story's
the
kind of
fuck?
hurt somewhat now, right? Because
Hmm.
you have to do both now, essentially. And it's like, it's just, yeah.
Yeah.
And we also didn't get, because Katara didn't learn healing, until pretty much like episode seven, episode eight, very late into this one. We learned about healing very early on in the original, right? Because Aang
Mhm.
tried firebending very on in the original. None of that
Yeah.
here. So I wonder
Hmm.
if they're gonna do any firebending stuff with uh the old guy that we meet. I forget his name.
The old guy that we meet. You know how many old guys do we meet? Give me some context.
The firebender he originally practices with in the animation
Oh
series.
yeah, yeah. No,
That
I
guy.
think that. Yeah, I
Zhao's
don't
original
remember his.
master.
Yeah, I don't remember the name, but like I think if we already did season one, this is probably like we're not gonna touch on
I
that
mean,
anymore.
either we're never going to touch on it, or maybe it's something they'll do in season two. But I don't think they should at this point, right? And I mean,
Mm,
that's another thing, right? Like, there's a lot that was cut, right, for this from the
hmm.
original. Some of it I
Which
think makes sense to cut. Some of it I was kind of like, I don't know if they should have cut that. Something we never mentioned, right? Wan Shi Tong. We meet
mhm,
him in this first season,
yes,
which is different, but I'm okay with it. But like the way Zhao got, the thing got the knowledge and the thing to kill the moon spirit was just he learned it from the firebending sages. And they
mhm.
even had like the knife that could kill the moon spirit
Yeah, that felt contrived.
a
That
little bit. Yeah,
felt
like I was watching that, I was like, it would make sense if if he found that knife in the spirit world, right? When he went to Wan Shitong's library. Doesn't make as much sense for
and
him to find it
yeah,
just
and the other thing,
hanging out
if
at the
we're
Fire Nation for whatever reason. Why do they have it?
Mhm.
Even if
Yeah,
it's connected to the Avatar, why do they have it?
and the other thing I kind of want to say regarding season two, I because we talked about this earlier that there is a lot of like exposition dialogue that really
Yeah,
takes out of it.
try and get rid of that,
I really hope they get rid of some of this if we're gonna, because book
especially from
two,
Aang, because I
yeah,
want to see him
especially
be
from
more
Aang.
of a character, right? I want to see him
Mhm.
be more of that, and
Yes.
he kind of ends up being that kind of exposition-y, monologue-y dialogue so much, and it
and
It
especially
takes
because
away
in
from
season
him.
two, and also because in season two, not only airbending, but like he learns more about the avatar state and everything. I don't want it to be so much exposition that it's gonna be so robotic to an extent, and
Yeah.
part of the reason this was so good in the original is because they gave you just enough, but everything else was told through the
Oh,
visuals.
speaking of things I'm interested to see for like season two,
Tough.
uh, yes, Toph, absolutely. That's going to be wonderful. I hope. I hope they get a
Hmm.
good actress for her, and I hope she
Yeah,
kills it because she's going to be
definitely.
lovely. But
Mm.
Iroh's story, remember? I think that's in season two, right? Or is that season three? No, it's season two.
Uh, I also. Oh,
Of
actually, this is
him.
another.
Yeah, no, I'm.
This is.
That's why I'm bringing it up. Like him talking about, like him doing the thing for his son and honoring his son, right? Because that's like the kind of
Yeah.
first time we learn about all that.
Hmm.
They do that in this season. Like we learn,
Yeah.
his son died
Which
already, and like there's
I
this.
found it
Oh, yeah,
super
go ahead.
emotional and honestly kind of
Did you
charming.
hear? Did you hear the fucking song in the background that they remixed it a little bit and did it
Yeah,
differently?
I did.
Like
So that's why
motherfuckers,
it
I
sounds
hear.
familiar.
Yes, motherfucker. Like I caught on to that instance. Like motherfuckers, I hear you. You did so good with that remixing of that song. That was so good. Props to you. Clap, clap. That was a good remix. So well
Yeah, that
done.
was in
But no,
general like
like it was like
the remixes of the from the original show so sounded
yes,
great.
absolutely good. Yeah, the music, the soundtrack, perfect. Mwah. Beautiful. You did lovely with it. But no, like I kind of like yeah, it was a little bit teary eyed. Like they did good. Now, yeah, you might maybe it's playing off nostalgia a little bit, but I liked how they added like, hey,
But at the same time, you know what?
Iroh's son was
Those little
actually
touches.
inspirational to Zuko, and Zuko's like trying to be there for Iroh and say hey, like he gave this to me, saying like it should belong to someone who's going to go do and great, who's going to go off and do great things, right? And he gives this little trinket back to Iroh and say after saying that and he just kind of sits down beside Iroh and just kind of chooses to stay there with him. It's like that's really touching. That's really sweet. Like showing that relationship that formed between Zuko and Iroh early on. I like that, and I was watching all of that scene unfold right after his Iroh's son's death and everything, and I'm sitting there thinking like, oh, I wonder how they're gonna do the stuff with Iroh in season two because I kind of want to see that now because that's gonna be really interesting having this and going into that, right?
Hmm.
And that's something I think this show does pretty well of. I'm genuinely kind of interested in seeing a season two for this. I do want to see it. I do want to see what they do
Like
with that because there's decisions
I
they've made
agree.
here. I want to see how they change things in season two and how they build off of this. They have gotten me interested. I think it is good
Hmm.
enough that, hey, I'm willing to give this a shot for season two.
I'm willing to give it a shot too. I want to see how they'll continue doing this and what the future brings. The, then again, there are some notes. I hope less expository,
Yes,
less
yes.
of an exposition dialogue. Please give,
Let our boy Aang just be Aang for a bit, not exposition,
yeah.
not monologue. I get
Hmm.
it. It makes sense for it to come from Aang every now and again, but let our boy be
Also,
Aang too.
let our boy bend other stuff than
Yeah,
air
please,
people.
please
He's the
let him
avatar
walk
for
a bit.
crying out loud.
Or don't, and just be fucking wild and out there and just tank your
and
show for the weirdest
just
fucking
because
reason.
and speaking of this is for and let Ozai say Hakuna Matata, but that's
let
another
him do
story.
it right at the end when he's fighting Aang. Aang's trying to.
Oh no.
Oh, Aang, like it's the blue versus red thing. Aang's trying to take him over. You hear in the background being whispered Hakuna Matata, and you hear it getting louder as Ozai takes over, and then Aang,
He just say he flies towards saying Hakuna Matata like as he's flying
and then
towards
Aang finally, as he's almost down, as he's down to the last little bit of like blue speck, right? Aang's like, "You don't embody the true spirit of Hakuna Matata, Ozai," and Ozai's like, "No," and then he loses.
him. Uh, writers
We've
of the
created the
show,
best.
you're welcome.
Yeah.
Huge bags of money, put them on the side,
Yep.
please. Thank
Yep.
you.
We don't ask for much, but we do ask for something to get paid for our work. It is incredible, and it will
Um,
do extremely well.
yeah, most likely. So, So anyway, anything else to add? Because I think we kind of covered everything.
Yeah, like surprisingly, if I know a lot of people aren't. I know a lot of people will probably be mad about hearing this, but as a fan, I'm happy with this. I walk away happy. It was
Again,
good.
I
Yeah,
I
yeah,
say this again. It's not as good
yeah.
as the
Lay down the
original. It will
pitchforks. Lay
never
down the
be.
torches. It's not
It
saying
will
it's
never
better.
be.
Not saying it's as good as, but it is on its own, in its own right. It is good. I think.
Yeah. And also, I think though, if someone told me that they got to the franchise through the movie and then had to go back, I'd be like, oh no, full set. But if someone told me that they got into Avatar through this show and like
I think that's
to
okay.
and like either it's because it's new and they never heard of the original and they said, what the hell, or maybe they are just they just can't really get into animation, but it's easier to get them invested with a live action show. You know what? It's not a bad substitute to
No.
just kind of get into it. If you like, but don't make this your only one.
Yeah.
Watch the original.
Try to watch the original. If you can't, if it's the original's just not for you, fair enough. Like you're not doing terrible with this. You could do a lot worse. And just to say, I got into Avatar with the movie, as you said, you poor soul.
Yeah.
You're missing out so much. But this, I can at least say, yeah, like I don't feel you poor soul. I feel like what, you're getting a version, and it's a good version. It's just not as good. It's just not the best version, right? And that's fine.
Yes.
Try and enjoy the best
No.
version. Try and get into that if you can. But if it's not for you, yeah, you could do a lot worse. This is good.
Yes. So that said, that's all
Yep,
for
yep.
this episode of the Outcast. We hope you enjoyed it. What do you think about Avatar: The Last Airbender, the Netflix version? You can tell us all about that in the comment section below, on our Tumblr, which is Berkcast Team, and on our Twitter, which is Berkcast with capital B, capital C. So until next time, I was HC,
I was Wolf.
and we will see you all in the next episode. Take care.
Akuna Matata.